the Minnesota Timberwolves, they're making moves. The way that they're playing it on the offseason, for NBA free agency, they look like they're trying to say, well, we want to win now. We want to make a huge impact now. Last season they went 31-51. They had a young squad, but it was promising. They were in the Western Conference. If they went 31-51 in the East, they probably would have made the playoffs. That's how terrible the East is. So it was a young squad. I felt like the young guys played decent. Ricky Rubio actually developed some kind of a jump shot, but now they made some huge moves. Now it's time to dive deeper. A lot of people are picking like the Timberwolves as their dark horse. They already have them as going to be the fourth or fifth seed in the league. Like some people are even saying like they feel like in the Western Conference. Pardon me. Some people feel like they're already set to be like top 3 teams in the West behind Golden State, but behind the Spurs. So they feel like they could possibly take over Houston. So I'm like, whoa, like pump your brakes. But then when you look at the roster, what it's going to be made up so far, you have Jeff Teague, you have Jimmy Butler, you have Karl Anthony Towns, you have my guy Andrew Wiggins, who's maturing into a better player. And then they just signed Jamal Crawford to a 2-year deal, $8.9 million. So they have a semblance of a bench. The thing with the Minnesota Timberwolves, because this reminds me of when Minnesota Timberwolves went and got Spreewell, and they had Wally Zerbiak. They had a solid team. That it was a few years back, like I want to say 2003 or so. I can't remember back then. I was literally a kid back then, like teenager, 12, 13 or so. So when you're thinking about something like that, those guys seem very, very promising. Because you had Spreewell coming from the Knicks. You had KG, Zerbiak. They had guys around them that were somewhat sturdy, but it didn't necessarily work out. I feel like we're getting this set up for the Timberwolves making a huge push, and then we're going to get let down. The simple fact is the Timberwolves gave up a lot of their young talent in order to make some of these moves. They gave up Chris Dunn. They gave up Ricky Rubio, which is gone. Rubio is not even like nothing really to cry about because he was just kind of forming into his game. Then they gave up Zach LaVine, which I felt like was a big mistake. Zach LaVine's very athletic. His three-point shooting was getting better. A lot of these guys that they gave up, Chris Dunn, he didn't really get a chance to sniff the court really. So they gave up a lot of their youth for guys that we kind of know who they are already. We know who Jimmy Butler is. He's gonna play really hard on defense. He's gonna get you some games where he's going to score big points, but sometimes you're going to get that game when he only has 9 points. You're going to get a playoff game where he only has 15 points. So that's to be said as well. Like I like Jimmy Butler. I think he's a great player, but he's a star, but he has another level to go so he can be a consistent superstar. He's a great two-way player. Like Paul George is a great two-way player. But sometimes when you're looking at Paul George, you're like, what are you doing? Like, this is not the level that you need to be playing at. So that's kind of the same thing with Jimmy Butler. Now, you're mixing. So it's a reunion for Jimmy Butler and Tom Thibodeau. You have Jeff Teague, for some reason, he disappears in big moments. Like every time the Pacers played the Cavs, he disappeared. And every time there's like some kind of adversity, he disappears. And you're looking at a guy like Jeff Teague, every night he's going to have one of the most hellacious nights because he has to go against Chris Paul, Damian Lillard, Stephen Curry, Russell Westbrook. I mean, he's going up against people that's gonna cook you night in, night out. Tony Parker. The list goes on and on and on. So I don't know if he can withstand that kind of barrage in the West. Because in the West, it's like this is the wild, wild, wild West, especially with everything that's going on. And these point guards out here in the West, they ain't like the East. You know what I'm saying? The East, you could go to the club, you could party, you could chit chat with your friends, you could stay up all night. These guys in the West, if you know you're playing them, you got to take a nap early, you got to go to sleep early, because they're going to go all over you all day and all night. So, the only competition Teague really faces in the East, besides Kemba Walker and Kyrie, is the Cleveland Cavaliers, Kyrie Irving, Kemba Walker, maybe. And there's no really huge competition like for point guards out there in the East. Because it's Isaiah Thomas, Kyrie Irving, and then John Wall, basically. But sometimes Wall can be inconsistent. In the West, you consistently get that hard-nosed stuff, like crazy. And the thing I want to see the development of the team and the psyche of the team is because they went from a team that was rebuilding, and I felt like this next year they were going to take a huge leap because I feel like the young guys kind of knew where they stood and what to do. But Jimmy Butler is essentially the star that they were really looking for to kind of solidify the nucleus, give guys confidence, like, okay, I'm here, I can take over the load when you're struggling. But in terms of the development of Wiggins, I'm interested to see the development of Wiggins, Towns. I want to see if what this team is going to do offensively. Because they are a team that, they struggled offensively at times. And I want to see what is their mantra. Are we going to shoot a lot of threes? Tom Thibodeau's not big on threes. He's big on pick and roll. You know what I'm saying? He's big on getting to the basket. They signed Taj Gibson and stuff like that. He's going to want to impress that whole inside out basketball, basically. But how much out are you going to get? You know what I'm saying? People feel like, okay, they can shoot threes. Tom can shoot threes. Jimmy Butler can shoot threes. Jeff Teague can shoot threes. But, Jamal Crawford coming off the bench can shoot threes. But besides Jamal Crawford, none of these guys are really great three-point shooters. You know what I'm saying? Especially because they're not going to get a lot of wide open threes. Because people are going to pack the paint on them. And they're going to be like, okay, they're going to be contested threes. Because you can live with Jeff Teague shooting 4 to 5 threes a game because he's not a great three-point shooter. You can live with Jimmy Butler shooting a lot of threes because, you don't necessarily want him to get to the basket and get and-ones because that's where he's very, very, very strong at. So it's interesting to see what kind of team ball club they're going to be. I'm really interested to see this because I'm curious. I want to see it. And how are they going to gel on offensive end? Defensive end. Because Tom Thibodeau, he's going to play all his guys 45, 46 minutes. You're barely going to get a blow. So defensively, are they going to buy in? Because last year, the reason why the Timberwolves struggled, because defensively, they weren't that great. Defensively, let me see what they were rated. I'm going to find this out right now. Defensively, they were rated 27th. And all crazy, offensively, they were rated 10th. But obviously, if you're playing a game where you're outscoring teams and you go 31 and 51, you weren't really scoring that well in terms of great competition. But defensively, they were giving up 112 points per game. 27 out of 30, almost dead last. And Tom Thibodeau's calling is defense. So if the Timberwolves can buy in defensively, they can be a threat in the West. And I look at them as a 5 or 6 seed. Coming from the 13th seed to say they're going to be a top 4 team, it's kind of tough to imagine. Because you still have a lot of teams that are building and stuff like that. And they still have time to gel. They need to gel. But, if Tom Thibodeau can impress upon them great defense and they can buy in, they can get some of the guys to really lock in Jeff Teague is gonna have to lock in, because if it really rests on his shoulders on the wing, because we know Wiggins is gonna defend, we know Jimmy Butler is gonna defend, but Jeff Teague, he can't let these point guards get loose on him, because in the West, if you're giving up penetration up top, it's a wrap. Like your defense is done, because it causes rotations, and I don't know if they're gonna be crisp with the rotation. So it's interesting to see. I like them. I think they're gonna be a force to reckon. I don't think anybody's gonna want to play them in the playoffs. I think that for sure nobody's gonna want to play them in the playoffs. But the jury's kind of still out if they're gonna be like a top tier team. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. This is Vlad, Hoops Junction with Hoops Meets Hoopla. Peace.